Hello out there in La Land. We resume. This is a continuation class. Last time we learned about how to criticize and how not to criticize. And we could probably label this best as how to criticize and how not to criticize, part B. My source is the work by Rabbi Joseph Telushkin, To Be Holy. Most of my material is drawn from him. And this class is always his little nishmas rachalei b'suf chaim tzvi aleh shalom. Okay, now here is a good thing to remember. You should try and acknowledge your faults that are in common with those that you are criticizing. This will make it all that much easier for you to accept rebuke when you realize that you're as guilty as the other person that you wish to rebuke, that you have the same faults, same foibles, and the very same flaws. Rav Chaim Soloveitchik, the great Rav Chaim Brisker, when he would give a Shabbos Tshuva drasha, now, of course, Rav Chaim Brisker, like the Chafetz Chaim, there are countless stories about him, and it's hard to know how many stories are apocryphal, how many really happened to another tzaddik. I've heard many a time stories which I know to be about Yisrael Salanter told about the Chafetz Chaim, stories which I know to be about the Chafetz Chaim told about Yisrael Salanter, etc., etc. And the story about Rav Chaim Brisker, which really happened to the Brisker Rav, this story I know to be accurate because the story was told by the Rav himself, the Rav Chaim Brisker's grandson, Rav Yasher Ber Soloveitchik. And this is what the Rav Chaim used to say in the Shabbos Shuvah Drasha. He would say, Chaim is speaking to Chaim, but if you wish, you can eavesdrop. There's another rabbi who would say to his audiences, don't think that I'm innocent of all the offenses that I'm enumerating. I too have enumerated some of them. All that I'm doing, therefore, is speaking aloud to myself. And if anything you might overhear applies to you as well, well and good. This is a very productive way to handle one-on-one situations when you wish to offer criticism. Accept part of the blame, admitting that you too have struggled with the same problems, and this makes the other party far less ashamed to admitting doing wrong, and you can prompt this person to seek your help in trying to rectify their flaw. Nextly, it's very important that you should not make unrealistic demands upon a person that you're criticizing. I cannot think of a better example, as is related in the Tnuas HaMusar, that Yisrael Salanter, the granddad of the Musar movement, and I use this example as people always credit him legitimately with having fathered the Musar movement, the movement of ethical perfection. But the fact of the matter is, when you hear this story, it really makes you aware of the fact that he just as legitimately could be the father of the Tshuva movement. He lived in Memel, Germany. Memel is not all that far from Lithuania. It's a port town. There aren't many ports in Germany. And all the workers, all the longshoremen, all the dock workers were all Mechalelei Shabbos. They all desecrated the Shabbos. So what would Yisrael Salanter do? Shabbos morning after shul, he'd go to the ports and say, good Shabbos, my friends, and not with his nose in the air, I'm holy, I'm Shabbos. No. Shabbos, how are you? How's your wife? How are the kids? And they loved him. After several weeks, perhaps it was even months, after he'd really befriended them, said, my friends, I want to ask you a favor. He said, Rabbi, for you anything, whatever you request, it'd be our pleasure. He said, I wanted to know if I could ask you a favor. Go ahead. Do you think it's possible that instead of writing down the inventory what you'll load on Shabbos, you can write the inventory on Motzi Shabbos? No, Rabbi, there is no, forget. How in the world? This is our job. We have to write down. We'll forget. We got to write. But maybe conceivable, perhaps. Theoretically. Hypothetically. Perhaps. We could try, and they succeeded. Several weeks later, Several weeks later, Yisrael Salanter approached him and said, my friends, may I ask you a favor, Rabbi? For you, anything, just anything. Well, whatever you want, it would be our honor. Well, I was wondering, do you think it's possible not to write down on Shabbos the inventory that you load on the boats? No. We already stopped writing down what we unload, but how would we keep a record? There is no way. Hypothetically, conceivably, we could try. And they succeeded. And then several weeks later, once again, Yisrael Salanter approached him on Shabbos and said, my friends, may I ask you a favor, Rabbi? There's nothing we wouldn't do for you. So I was wondering, do you think it's possible that you don't unload the ships on Shabbos? Maybe Friday afternoon, work a little bit later, Saturday night. Now I'm going to roll up my sleeves, I'm going to help. But, this is what we do for a living. We don't write down the inventory anymore. We don't write down what we load. We don't write down what we unload. But how in the world could you avoid unloading the boats on Shabbos? Maybe if you want to help, I guess we could try. And they succeeded. And as you can imagine, just a few weeks later he said, and how about maybe not loading the boats on Shabbos? We could do it Friday, Saturday night, Sunday. And in the course of a year, the entire town turned Shomer Shabbos. He turned around town. This was with love. And it was the proper way to give criticism. He didn't make unrealistic demands. Stop shkotzim your mechal shab. No. Maybe we could do one thing. Stop writing. Then another week later, stop writing what you're loading. Then a few weeks later, don't make unrealistic demands. It's a beautiful example of how to make the right approach. For example, if you know someone who is, be they wealthy or not, but they don't give the proper amount of money to charity, it's unrealistic to say to them, you should be giving 1/10 of your money to charity. Tell them, maybe you think that this year you can give 1% more. Maybe climb from 2% to 3%, 3% to 4%. Wait a little longer, 4% to 5%. And don't right away say you should give 1/10 of your money to income. It's unrealistic to make such a demand. Not only that,